What's happening out in the wild world of independent wrestling? Weekend at Effie's. It's available on all podcast platforms and has the first-hand accounts of professional wrestler Effie each week as he tries to make sense of his crazy adventures, travel, and plethora of weird wrestling shows shared without interruption to friend and spiritual confidant Peter. Weekend at Effie's is a raw and thought-provoking look into a chaotic world, and with over a year of episodes available, there's plenty to listen to now. Just search Weekend at Effie's wherever you hear podcasts. That's Weekend at Effie's, EFFYS. They also have a TikTok and Twitter at Weekend at Effie's, or Patreon, patreon.com/Weekend at Effie's.
This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore! Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass.
This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Hey everybody, welcome to the WWE Podcast. It's Wednesday, October 19th, 2022. It's time for the mailbag. It's time to hear from you. What's on your mind? What's been going on with you and your opinions with WWE over the last week? It's time to hear from you and enough from me. But let's dive right in. Not going to waste any time. Our first question is, or email rather, is from patron Charlie Furman. And he says, "Hey everyone. This is Charlie from Milwaukee. Matt, I don't know if you realize this, but Triple H wasn't even at Raw on Monday. He was at home because he has COVID, so Road Dogg was running the show. Also, I just got my tickets for Raw on December 12th in Milwaukee and would love to do a Raw review with you. I just read an article that WWE is putting together a Roman versus Sammy match for the title. Hopefully this will lead to a Sammy and KO tag team match against the Usos at WrestleMania. I just got my tickets for WrestleMania. Hopefully, if you're planning on doing one night and 2-night review, they could do that as well." Okay, wow, lot there, Charlie. Let me address this one by one. I did not know, and embarrassingly I didn't, I'll take your word for it, that Triple H had COVID and he was home. And he didn't do Raw. Because if that's the case, it was very apparent Triple H wasn't running Raw, as I was very negative on the Raw review this past week and last night. I didn't hate the whole show overall. I just thought that it was a very Vince McMahon-esque type of show. And I had a lot of kickback from some people that didn't like my negativity. But I'm just going to say this as plainly as I can. I'm not going to fabricate positivity for the show just for the sake of positivity. And if people can't handle me being negative on a show, I mean, I don't know what to say. Like I'm always keeping it real. There's nothing else I will do. I'm not going to just fabricate happiness or, again, positivity just to shield somebody from not wanting to hear negativity. I got nothing to say. And that's the nicest way I can put it. For real. Like, you know, if you want a show that just feeds you constant crap down your throat and you want to hear somebody just praising WWE all the time for everything they do about everything, then you're on the wrong show. That said, I will say that I have been extremely positive about wrestling and WWE specifically since Triple H took over. I mean, it's been like 90%, 10% until last night with the Raw reviews. So, I mean, I call it like I see it. And that's the one thing that's to me like one of the core values of this show. If such a thing exists, that's the one thing I pride myself on, and I know all the co-hosts on the show do too. We tell it exactly like it is. I don't dictate to my co-hosts how to run their shows. They're authentic. They tell you exactly how they feel, and I think that's one thing that maybe that is different from a lot of other shows, even bigger shows than this, is that we don't hold back and we don't cuss to cuss. We just are just honestly authentic, and that's in the description of the show, and you know that we will never change that. So if you don't like all the negativity that sometimes happens with shows, I don't know what to say to you. And if, you're looking for a more positive show and don't want to hear it, then I don't know. But I know a lot of people weren't happy with my Ronda Rousey rant last night. I heard it not just on Patreon. I heard it in other places too, but I'll address that a little bit later in the show. You can probably guess what my response is going to be to that. And I'm not going to double down. I'm going to triple down on exactly what I said. So if you think I'm going to change my opinion on Ronda Rousey because a couple of people had their bellies hurt and tummies getting a cramp because I went on about Ronda Rousey, I don't know, guys. I mean, this is a podcast, right? It's opinion by its very nature. So, okay, moving on, Charlie. But let's move on to what your next point is here. So, yeah, if Road Dogg was running the show, it was very apparent that actually was the case, because it feels like Road Dogg got a bit of the Vince McMahon possession on Monday night. It was just, it seems like Triple H, or rather Vince, was channeling through Road Dogg. But okay, so you're going to Raw on December 12th. That's awesome. I don't have anything scheduled out that far, but that being said, it is kind of towards the holidays and things get hectic. So let's, talk a little bit further down when you get closer. Maybe you can at least send me a voicemail, or we can do a quick review. I don't know yet. It may not be a bad idea though. And by all means, if, you're attending the show, I'd at least want, if you could, if you're generous enough, some just in-person perspective, and we can talk as we get closer. But okay, now you also said you read an article about Roman and Sami having a match for the championship. Now, I don't know where you saw that article. It doesn't seem too far-fetched to me. Sami Zayn is a babyface, whether we want to believe it or not. He is right now, even though he's associated with a heel group. Sami versus Roman for the championship is definitely in the table, or on the cards. And I don't believe Sami would win that match, however it comes to be. But I do believe it will be Sami and KO taking out the Usos for those tag team championships. And it could be at WrestleMania. I really think that's WrestleMania worthy. Especially Sami and KO together. Man, they're magic. Whether against or with each other, they're always magic. But you also got your tickets for WrestleMania. Man, you're living the life. You are living the life of being able to just go to wrestling events, here and there. And I haven't been to a wrestling event in years. So awesome. Well, yeah, I mean, I honestly don't know what the heck I'm doing for WrestleMania. That's 6 months away. I don't know what I'm doing tomorrow, much less 6 months away. How I've done WrestleMania in the past is I do a night 1 review, a night 2 review, and really the entire week following WrestleMania, when I bring co-hosts on, we'll talk Monday Night Raw or SmackDown following the show, but it's also kind of putting a bow on WrestleMania as a whole for the whole week. There's a lot of review for WrestleMania. It's massive. So, all right. Thanks, Charlie. Thank you so much. And let's get to our next patron. And this is Grim Reefer. He says, I actually feel sorry for Roman Reigns. Yes, I must be going soft, but having to face Logan Paul at Crown Jewel is a big farce. Logan has had a couple of well-choreographed matches, so this is going to be his biggest ballet yet. I can't understand why the Bloodline would have not laid a finger on him. The last promo in the ring a couple of weeks back, you'd expect him to get a beating, but nothing. Was Logan Paul the last Vince signing? I can't remember. Hopefully this might be the end of him, because I can't stand him or his moron of a brother. So, as I was reading this, I was thinking, yeah, why didn't the Bloodline just beat down Logan Paul? Here's why. It comes down to money and risk. Because Saudi Arabia is paying a truckload of money to WWE every time they do an event for the Prince to just play God with whatever's going on in wrestling and put his fantasy matchups together. It brought Shawn Michaels sadly out of retirement that we don't talk about. It put on, I remember Triple H versus John Cena, which actually wasn't a bad match. It's given us Goldberg and Undertaker. I mean, there's a match I'd love to review sometime. Speaking of negativity, but that's what it is. They are protecting their assets, even though Logan Paul's young and he's durable and he's a tough guy, and he's a tough dude. I wouldn't want to fight him. No, that has nothing to do with me having an opinion about him as a wrestler, but my point is WWE is protecting their assets and not taking any chances of him potentially getting injured prior to the event. So I'll be surprised if there's any significant physicality prior to the November 5th event, because there's too much money riding on that main event. That's not going to sell the pay-per-view in and of itself, but it's for this most prestigious championship in WWE. It is technically the main event. Does anyone outside of Saudi Arabia and the Prince care about this main event? No. Nobody cares or wants Logan Paul in the main event at this stage in his career. So they're just doing the smart thing, and I would too. Keep the physicality to a bare minimum, because it's not worth the small chance of a potential injury happening prior to the event, and you have to change the main event and have Roman face somebody else, and then maybe you lose money on the deal. There's too much money at stake with Saudi Arabia, so that's probably what they're doing and why. But yeah, I mean, he's a good athlete, but does he deserve a championship match? I mean, it's not even a debate. Of course he doesn't. But enough dollars tell you he will. So, or he does. But was Logan Paul the last Vince signing? I don't know. I don't know who the last... It might have been. When I'm thinking about it. Because who signed after Logan Paul? I don't know anybody. It probably was. But his brother is a moron. Yeah, look. The whole Paul... Logan Paul and Jake Paul, the whole Paul family is one of the most bipolar, or rather polarizing, as John Cena was once labeled, polarizing figures in all of just entertainment and sports in general. They are multimillionaires already. I don't like either of them on a personal level. They seem like just D-bags through and through. But everyone's got an opinion about them. And here's the thing that they don't care about. They don't care that you hate them. You know why? Because they know that you'd pay money to see somebody beat them up. And they're going to get a cut of that money that you spend. See how this thing works? So even if they're putting on an act or they're not, whether they're authentically D-bags or they're not, doesn't really matter to them. And it doesn't matter to them if you hate them or not. As long as you're spending money to watch them, that's all they care about, because it lines their pockets either way. See the trick of the trade here? Yeah. Okay, when was the last time the Usos defended the titles with any meaning? The answer is I don't know. Was it against Street Profits? It might have been. I mean, I guess with any meaning is a bit subjective, but I guess one that you mean there's an actual threat of them losing. I think it was against the Street Profits a couple of pay-per-views ago. But yeah, the Usos are essentially going uncontested at this point. But the tag team division is something that Triple H is going to continue to focus on. I still believe it's going to be Sami and KO to take it off of them. Probably not till WrestleMania, though. Also, the women's tag titles. I've been busy. I don't think I've missed anything. Nope, you haven't. The women's tag titles have gone back into the obscurity black hole that they came out of, which is why I don't want them to introduce any new championships to the women's division. People have always said, well, why don't you introduce like a mid-card championship to the women's? No. For a couple of reasons. Number one, they can't even manage the championships that they have correctly now, especially the tag team championships. You want to add another one? Add to that most of the women's division can't have a match or a program without talking or having it be about a championship. Very few times it has happened, but more often than not, there have been matches that happen that are about the championship and not just about personal feuds. And I don't want everything about the championship. So you think adding another one will help? And that wasn't your question, but I get that a lot too. Okay. Bobby Lesnar. Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley. BL squared. Oh yeah, cool. To be honest, I'm not bothered about an explanation as to why, as this is going to be brutal. Well, wouldn't it help though? I mean, any program that you get in, that you see, isn't it helpful to know the motivations behind why they're doing what they're doing? Otherwise, it's just senseless, complete Neanderthal fighting. Like, it's just, without a story, there's no emotion. Without emotion, there's no connection. Without connection, people disengage and become disinterested. So it's a domino effect without that. And I know that, you're thinking it's going to be brutal. I don't think it's going to be brutal, even from a physical standpoint. Both of them are pros. Like, you're not going to get the 5-star classic of, a Johnny Gargano Austin Theory match. That's not the game they play, nor is it the game they should try to play. They should try to play the game that they're good at, and that's power moves and a slower pace and just freaky athleticism is what they're going to do. And I just want to know why. Without a motivation or any kind of explanation from Brock, I'm like, dude, can somebody ask him why? Has anyone asked him why? Why have we not gotten that yet? It's bizarre. And it's disengaging for me. Despite the fact that they're actually taking this serious and not doing the jokey stuff the first time. I don't know. Okay. Ronda Rousey and her person without a penis SmackDown Championship. I like that. Now, you need to be careful, Grim. Because in today's culture, some may believe that women can have penises. Okay. Now, WWE doesn't bring in that kind of stuff, nor do I think they should ever. It would just muddy the waters on a lot of levels. But that's the culture we live in. But I agree. That is hilarious. Maybe that's not exactly a way to shorten the name of the championship. Imagine Ronda saying, that she's going to compete for the person without a penis SmackDown Championship. That's. She reminds me of the cast of Harry Potter. This is Grim, not me. He says that she reminds me of the cast of Harry Potter when they slagged of J.K. Rowling for saying she has periods because she's a woman. Okay, now we're getting into politics. I know the whole kind of criticism against J.K. Rowling for saying a woman's a woman and a man and a man can't become a woman, all that kind of stuff. But it's really difficult for me because I actually am pretty involved in politics and I have very strong opinions on them. But I won't bring them here because that's not what this platform is for. It's just, you're triggered me and now I need to resist the trigger. All I'll say is, again, it's actually funny because I have only like one or two people know I have like secret Twitter accounts that I have created just for the purpose of like actually engaging politically, because I'm not going to put any political stuff on my wrestling podcast. It's just not good for business. No one needs to hear it. No one wants it. That's not what this is for. But anyway, I have to plead the fifth on this because I'm going to go down a rabbit hole and then I'll end up talking politics when I don't want to. Okay. Well, thank you, Grim. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And let's get to our next patron here. And DJ Kuzmo. Let's see what he's got to say this week. This is DJ Kuzmo back at it again on your Mailbag show. Let's get to these quick, hot shots. Number one, SmackDown's odd/interesting open. From this past Friday night on SmackDown, to open the show, we had an odd or interesting show apart with the car collision that included an injured, quote, Cross and Scarlett. Interesting to find out who caused the collision and where did the culprit go. Kind of odd. Remember like a month ago to open Monday Night Raw, there was a car collision? Interesting to see where this goes because on SmackDown later in the show, there wasn't even a follow-up to the collision situation. Yeah, that is interesting. Do you think, I mean, this is kind of a rhetorical because no one can answer me right now, but do you think that the car collisions that we saw in Raw a while ago in the background and the one we saw on SmackDown are related? Maybe. I think that the car collisions we saw in Raw were when Dexter Lumis was starting to just attack and stalk The Miz, but I don't think he had anything to do with the car collisions. I don't know. Maybe they'll string this out like they strung out the whodunit with Roman Reigns. Was it Roman Reigns that one summer where there's like scaffolding fell on him or something? And it was like a whodunit for months, and they re-showed that scaffolding falling on Roman like it was Hulk slamming Andre at WrestleMania 3. Like they showed it a stupid amount of times. So I don't know. I don't know what this is. I really have no idea. I don't have a clue. But with Triple H in charge, you'd imagine this isn't just doing things to do things for TV shock value, but rather for an actual reason in a story. But I don't know what that is. Couldn't tell you. Number 2, crossover, NXT crossover. I like the concept of having wrestlers from the main roster, like Raw and SmackDown, show up on the re-debut of NXT. Like, for instance, it seems to me that Shinsuke Nakamura is going to be on regular on NXT, since he returned this week on the show. And, of course, my guy, Veer Mahan. I can't do it like you, dude. On the other hand, having wrestlers from NXT show up on the main roster for some brief matches or cameos like Roxanne Perez, Toxic Attraction, or Cora Jade, it helps boost ratings. My question is, with all these appearances from all these brands, including NXT, is not having WWE do the draft a foregone conclusion? Because so far the booking for this year's Survivor Series PLE pay-per-view seems to be less brand-oriented. Speaking of NXT, okay, before you go on to the next topic here, I really don't believe there's going to be a draft. They've already done the season premiere. You'd imagine they would line up the season premiere with the draft. I mean, that makes almost too much sense. Now, there's no such thing as a season finale in WWE, but there's a season premiere. Go figure. But I don't think there's going to be a draft. Now, why don't I not think there's going to be a draft? Because WWE right now knows that, well, Triple H seems to know that if they do a draft, that then they're beholden to that roster, competing with just that roster, as long as they can hold out for that. I mean, but the problem is they know that they can't help themselves, and then they just violate the rules within 2 weeks. So rather than having a brand split be once again refreshed and in the forefront of fans' minds, and also restricting their own matchup potential or matchups that they could potentially put out to the fans, to the audience, what they've done is kind of both. They're trying to have their cake and eat it too. Like, there's a brand split, but not really. Like, people show up on Raw and SmackDown all the time that are on opposite brands with no explanation other than, oh, and from SmackDown tonight on Raw is so-and-so. There's no, it's not like security's coming out to drag them out anymore. There's no wild card rule. There's no quarterly invitational. There's none of that crap. It's just kind of, yeah, we have SmackDown and Raw rosters, but it's not really a hard split. And this past week, what did they do? They did a trade between Baron Corbin and Rey. So I think that's how they'll kind of make it feel like they're the illusion that there's a brand split by doing quote unquote trades, when in reality you could just show up on the opposing show with nobody saying anything at all. It's like a sleight of hand trick that they're doing right now. And I know that most fans are smart enough to see through it, but most fans don't care. I kind of gave up on them making sure that they're adhering to brand rules a long time ago, because it's exhausting to keep up on the amount of violations that they've had over the last year of their brand split. So I don't think they're going to do one. Okay, so NXT, Charlotte Flair's destination. I'm throwing this possible idea of Charlotte returning back to NXT and challenging Mandy Rose for her NXT title. Because here's the situation. On SmackDown, Ronda's pretty much a heel champion, who, besides a babyface Raquel Gonzalez on the SmackDown women's roster, can possibly feud with Ronda. I'm not sure of a babyface Shayna, and probably Becky on her return gets traded to SmackDown and feuds with Ronda. I agree. Becky and Ronda are on a collision course. It's 6 months away from the match actually happening, but the seeds of it are going to be planted, I think, when Becky returns from her injury. We're closer to November now than we are at the beginning of October. So now that November is just around the corner, a couple of weeks away, that promotes Survivor Series after this, god-awful, I shouldn't say god-awful, this, kind of no love lost event of Crown Jewel. And then it's into Survivor Series. And then from there, it's kind of like Take Me to Mania. After Survivor Series, you just like, you can see WrestleMania on the horizon. And I think that when Becky returns, it's going to be slow, but getting to Ronda Becky. Now, do I think that Charlotte's going to go to NXT? Probably not. I think they value her, especially Fox themselves. The executives value Charlotte too much to be able to say, yeah, no, we don't need her. You can put her on NXT. I think Charlotte's a ratings grab. And I don't mean that in a true needle moving, way where she's this mega star without her ratings plummet. But I think she adds something. I think viewers are interested when she returns. She's a big name. She might be arguably the biggest name and biggest success to come out of the women's revolution from the terrible butterfly title belt of the Divas era. Charlotte was the first true women's champion after that. She's the one that gave up the Divas championship, and it was reintroduced at WrestleMania 31. Do I dare say? It was around there. Somebody's going to, fact check me on that. I know it was about 6-7 years ago, right? Whatever it was. Charlotte was the first women's champion. She was the last Divas champion. And I think she is the biggest success to come out of it. Now, you could argue Becky is, but Becky's been injured here and there. She took a year and a half off for maternity leave. I think Charlotte's been the more consistent big name on the roster. Now again, that's arguable, but that's what wrestling's about. Okay, by the way, side note, what's up with these trades? Who's authorizing these trades? We got Ray and SmackDown and Corbin on Raw. Well, I that's funny. I didn't look ahead, but I guess I answered that already with the trade. They want to have their cake and eat it too, man. They want to say they have a brand split without actually acting like there's a brand split. It's weird. They'll tell us that there's separate rosters, but yet people show up on either show. There's trades, and it's a very strange way. They feel like they're in a sweet spot, and I think they think, and it's true, that if they do a new draft, they're going to be creatively stifled. Because now, this person's on here. Oh, man, we missed a matchup that now they're on Raw. How are we going to do this? That's what they've done. So, let's see. Raw, Bianca and Bayley are probably going to have another title match. So does creative dare bring Charlotte to Raw and be a part of the triple threat with Bayley and Bianca? That's probably more WrestleMania. Maybe a trade to Raw. Maybe that's actually what happens. Where Becky and Charlotte, there's an announcement of a mega trade in the women's division, and Becky goes to SmackDown, Charlotte goes to Raw, and you eventually get that match, yes. But it's more of like Rumble Mania time for me. NXT, back to it. Charlotte Flair and NXT makes sense because eventually Toxic Attraction, including Mandy, is probably going to move up to the main roster, which means that Mandy is going to drop her title in a loss. Yeah, that makes sense. That logically does make sense, but you also, it's always a bit of a struggle for NXT because NXT is still viewed as the kind of redheaded stepchild third brand, and it is a feeding ground for the main roster, but you also need to keep the NXT brand going. So to always pluck out the stars that start to really get over and put them on the main roster leaves NXT in a tough situation of always having to constantly build new stars, in a way that the main roster doesn't, because there's always big stars they can lean on, and in the background they can start to build new ones. Where NXT, it's 100% about building new stars, and anytime somebody gets super successful, they bring them up. It's tough. But Charlotte has always been about the title. That's her gimmick, her identity, and so her being back in NXT would bring viewers to NXT, and it would help put her over the top of the next crop of babyface women wrestlers in NXT, like Roxanne Perez, Nikita Lyon, and more. Yeah, I agree. I have no problem with Charlotte going to NXT. I don't. But I think Fox would be... I really do. Fox is, they're demanding. And they're the ones that I believe, from what I've heard, demanded that Bray Wyatt actually be a part of the SmackDown roster exclusively. Same with Roman Reigns. So, coincidence or kind of odd? Your final segment here. I noticed a couple of hours just reflecting on AEW Dynamite and NXT being on Tuesday night that both MJF and Austin Theory came out on the final segment of the separate shows, possibly teasing a cash-in on the title holders. MJF, with his casino chip, is in teasing his possible cash-in on a title opportunity against Jon Moxley. And then on NXT, Austin Theory teasing the possibility of cashing in on his Money in the Bank briefcase on Braun Breaker. I kind of saw that as a weird coincidence that both happen on the same night in the final segment. Who's copying who? This is DJ Kuzmo. Peace. Video or voice. Video. Yeah. Voice message is coming. Yeah. So that is interesting. I don't know if I'd read too much into it. I don't know if anyone's copying anybody. I mean, I really don't. I don't think anyone's copying anybody. I understand that the casino chip is symbolic of MJF's guaranteed title shot. I'm keeping up vaguely with that, and I think it's kind of coincidence. I really do. If it becomes a pattern where over the next like month or two you start to see like, wait a minute, this is weird. I don't think I have a very low confidence in that there are people talking to each other from a production standpoint in both companies saying, hey, you know what would be really funny is if you have MJF over on AEW, we have Austin Theory here in WWE. How funny would that be if, since MJF and Austin Theory are kind of in the same position, they both come out and do the same thing in their own ways on different shows? Wouldn't that be so funny? It's very unlikely. I mean, that's the only way that can happen is if production and creative and management on both ends figure out how to line that up perfectly on both shows. It's almost impossible. So that's my take on it. But God, I want MJF in WWE. I can't wait. All right, let's get to our next email here. And this is from Rocky T. And he says, hello, ladies, Matt and WWE podcast. Rocky T checking in once again. I try and keep it short, but you and the other co-hosts give me a wealth of knowledge and memories to comment on. First, yes, I remember Val Venus getting his dong chopped. And yes, you're a fool, no disrespect for not knowing the meaning of Al Snow's theme song. I'm 2 years younger than you, and I knew. My everlasting memory of Val Venus was when he was Intercontinental Champ. Great nostalgia show this week. So here's the thing. We all know Al Snow's theme song. What does everybody want? What does everybody need? Now, I'm like half ashamed of not knowing at that time what it meant. The reason I'm only half ashamed is because I don't regret the fact that I actually kept my innocence longer than most people. No, I made up for it. I mean, like, here's the thing. This is more of an After Dark episode, so I'll keep it PG as best I can. I think today, and it's been a pattern over decades now, where things happen younger and younger to kids, where their childhood gets taken away faster. That could be through, sex. It could be through alcohol, partying, other things on the internet they shouldn't be seeing. So I'm of the belief that you should extend childhood as long as possible. Like, for everyone. I mean, how much do we, for most of us, not all of us, maybe some of us had really bad childhoods, but I think most of us look back on our childhood and, of course, some bad memories, but we look back at it with fondness. And it really does set up the foundation for you as a person for the rest of your life. And sometimes we're always kind of chasing that childhood, that child that still lives in us or whatever. I'm not trying to get too deep or, wishy-washy, but my point is that I didn't know what that meant because I was ignorant, but I also kind of missed that, Like I miss not understanding or just going, oh, he's got a mannequin head. Oh, I guess everybody wants this mannequin head. Oh, okay, whatever. Like I was just, sure, makes sense, Al. So that's how I kind of viewed it. And I don't know, I guess the innocence was still there at that point in my life. I really didn't start drinking or anything till I was 19. Like 19 for me was an explosive age. Like 18 a little bit, 19 everything. And when you could pretty much read between the lines on this PG show what I mean, from drinking to blah to blank and blank and blank. Yeah, everything just exploded for me at 19, which some people today would look at it and go, oh my God, it took you that long. But you know what? I held on to my innocence way longer than most. And that childhood part was like held on for me longer than most people. So I guess I'm not, that's why I say it's kind of like half ashamed of it. Cause like should I have known? Probably, but I don't know. I got way too deep. Let's move the hell on. Just to give everybody an idea of how much Sami Zayn's Honorary Uso t-shirt is on back ordered. I ordered my shirt on October 5th. And the estimated ship date is November 2nd. We ordered another merch, and it was delivered on October 12th. Wow, it's delayed 4 weeks. my God. Oh, that's great. But it's an awesome shirt, right? Because that means anyone can be an honorary Uso. It's a great concept, a great t-shirt. They're making boatloads of money with it. You never know what's going to catch on fire, right? You just don't know. I hear you say that you catch Raw with the Hulu version because they have the next day rights to it. And it's an edited version. I have YouTube TV, and I'm able to watch Raw, NXT, and SmackDown. If you don't get to watch when it starts, then you have the option to start from the beginning or join the live broadcast. Plus, it's available after it airs, and past week's episodes are also available, and you can also skip through the commercials. Oh, okay. So YouTube must have also a deal here. Didn't know that. And I'm imagining that YouTube has the full 3 hours. So that's actually a cool thing. I also have Hulu for like Family Guy and stuff. But it's primarily, I have a Hulu subscription primarily for Raw and SmackDown, but that's good to know. I personally like all the factions in WWE. Over the last couple of years since I started watching AEW, I really liked how there were a lot of factions, something WWE didn't have much of. We know Vince wasn't high on tag team wrestling or factions, but now we see Triple H doing something similar with new stables. I think Triple H has a soft spot for factions considering he was in the corporation, which turned into the corporate ministry. He was in 2 versions of DX. He founded Evolution and was at the helm of the Stephanie Authority faction. Yeah. But I think the corporate ministry, though, became a little bit like the downfall of the NWO, where like there was just too many people. Like it became watered down and it didn't become that special when it becomes that big. So the corporate ministry on paper was a good idea that 2 massive heel factions would join together to form this mega faction that you can't take down. But I think that a lot of stars kind of got lost in it and it was kind of weird. I don't think it was a disaster. It just kind of became a little wishy-washy for me. But certainly some of the best storylines came out of it. I mean, the Vince McMahon, it was me, Austin. It was, meaning he was the higher power and then Austin became CEO. I mean, so we got some cool moments out of it. I think sound effects would be awesome for the show. Just grab some sound bites of WWE, catchphrases, and plug them into the show along with other sounds. Yeah, I thought about that. I know some people feel like it would make it sound cartoonish, but taking phrases or catchphrases or bits of a theme song and sticking it in here and there, I think are good. It's not hard to do. It just requires more editing and more time for me. But maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll just like put together a quick little library of just sound effects that would make sense to put on the show when needed and that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's okay. All right, cool. Travis is doing great. Travis Hughes, our AEW guy. Good call on bringing him on board. Well, good to hear. So shout out to you, Travis. I know that other people, including Rocky T, enjoy him. So to your point of what happened to Austin Theory, did he fall off a cliff or is it by design? Well, if it's not by design, then it's got to be that he was truly a Vince guy, maybe not a Triple H guy. Time will tell. Yeah, time is going to tell. I don't know what the heck's going to happen with Austin Theory. I mean, if he cashes in on anyone but Roman Reigns, that's possible. I mean, we all assume it's going to be for the Undisputed Championship, but it could be Braun Breaker. Hell, it could be the U.S. title. It could be anything, other than the women's side of things. So why not? Then take the pressure off of Austin Theory, make him a champion, but maybe make him a champion on NXT. Who knows? Again, I think the cash in that he eventually does will be a big sign of exactly where Triple H views Austin Theory. Yes. All right. By the time you read this, I'm hoping my Houston Astros beat your Yankees in Game 1. That's all for now. Don't forget to stay Uso. Yeah, I won't forget to say Uso, but hold on. I think the Yankee game just concluded. I'm not going to be happy about the result. Yeah, 4-2. Houston takes Game 1. I'm listening. Here are the highlights. I'm watching Anthony Rizzo's home run, like one of the only bright spots of the show or the game. For those that even care, yeah, Yankees and Houston in the ALCS. Well, yeah, not a great start, but I honestly don't expect the Yankees to win here. I think it's probably going to be Houston in 5 games. I think the Yankees will get 1. If Houston wins tomorrow and they go up 2-0, then I think Yankees could be in for a sweep. If the Yankees get one tomorrow, I still think Houston's going to win in 5 games. Their bullpen's too good. They're too rested. Yankees can't get a damn hit in Minute Maid Park. Houston just, for whatever reason, is their kryptonite and have always been the roadblock on the Yankees getting to the World Series the last few years, even though Houston was proven and admitted to cheating in 2017. So there's that too. But yeah, I'm not going to sit here and pretend the Yankees are going to kick Houston's ass. It's not going to happen. Okay. There's my prediction. Houston wins in 5. Yankees get 1 game. All right. Let's get to our next email here. I want to make sure if there's any patrons that are out there flapping in the wind I didn't get to. Let's get to Robert from the WWE Ringside Podcast. He's got a couple of questions. He says, first, you mentioned how Austin Theory could be laying low at the Money in the Bank as the Money in the Bank winner. I agree they're having him lay low so we forget about the briefcase. I think Roman's turning babyface, so when Theory cashes in, it doesn't go from heel to heel. Theory continuing to lose will make the cash-in feel bigger since he's beating Roman. Well, again, we're going to learn a lot with this cash-in. He teased Braun Breaker. Is that just kind of a red herring once again to get him out of our minds that he's going to cash in on Roman? It still could be. But I don't think they're going to turn Roman babyface, even though his group gets cheers, because people quickly realize how tired they are of Roman Reigns as champion and that other guys are truly having their careers hurt by not having to compete and have moments with this championship. Plus, if The Rock comes back, I keep saying it, you can't have Roman Reigns be the heel, or I'm sorry, the babyface in that matchup. It's not even up for debate, up for discussion. So, all right. So no, I see what you're saying, but I still believe that Austin Theory is going to have a failed cash in against Roman. I still believe that. That's my guess. Second, are there any bigger jobbers that we see on the main roster than the Alpha Academy or with Theory? Other than Otis winning a few weeks ago, when was that last time that they actually won? They all 3 of them lose individual matches and tag matches. Yeah, right now they're essentially a glorified enhancement talent. Like, that's what they've been relegated to. And I think, first of all, Alpha Academy is underrated, underutilized. And Theory doesn't need to be losing this many matches. That's why I also think he's going to have a failed cash-in, by the way. You can't have him on this losing streak and then have a winning cash-in. It's not going to happen. It'd be a really bad decision. But Alpha Academy has been used as kind of the doormats of Raw for the last couple of months. Not a big fan of it because Gable is capable of so much more, and the dynamic with Otis, with them actually being best friends, it's a great chemistry. So, yeah, I don't enjoy seeing them lose every match that they're involved in. Third, with WWE dropping the Day 1 pay-per-view, do you think they will be bringing back a pay-per-view in December? They removed the December pay-per-view last year and replaced it with Day 1. I don't know if they will. I wouldn't advise doing a pay-per-view in December unless they feel like they need to for some big angle they want to push into the new year. December is a really tough month because you have Christmas, of course. It's the holidays. People take time off. It's starting to become winter time. It's football's in fifth gear. Playoffs are about to start. It's just not a good time for wrestling. It has historically been a very quiet kind of ho-hum month. And I really wouldn't, if I was WWE, I would not put a pay-per-view in December. I didn't have any problem with Day 1 pay-per-view. Actually, it made me look forward to New Year's Day. Give me something to do, other than nurse a hangover. But I don't know. I don't know what they're going to do in December. I haven't seen anything that they were going to do in December. Maybe it'll be a December to remember. See what I did there? Last, I asked the casual wrestling fan this the other day and wanted to hear your thoughts on it. Do you think they will make a pay-per-view centered around the fight pit the way they did with Hell in a Cell and the Elimination Chamber? The match under-delivered, but could be great if done right with this right storyline. I'm going to say no. It's not, and the reason is this. For WWE standards, it's not gimmicky enough. Meaning, I don't think they think it would sell, given the way it looks and also the kind of underwhelming match we had with Rollins and Riddle, how they didn't utilize it at all. You've also, based on the rules of the Fight Pit match, with only having it end by knockout or submission, you're handcuffing yourself in terms of finishes. If somebody has most do a pin finish, meaning kind of like a pedigree or I don't know, spear or whatever, that always would be resulting in a pin. Well, if you can't pin, you're gonna have to knock your guy out, your opponent. Well, it just gets a little messy when you take away many finishes that could happen. A fight pit is kind of very restrictive in that way, given the rules of the match. So I don't think that they will do that. I don't think nobody's asking for it. No, there aren't people out there going, "Oh man, that'd be so cool if they centered this around the fight pit." No, there's nobody out there asking for that. I don't think they ever should have done it with Hell in a Cell. I mean, I think that it completely just tore away what Hell in a Cell used to mean, and I'm not a fan of it at all. But no, I don't think they're going to do it with the fight pit match. That's my thought. I wouldn't want them to or advise them to. No, there's no good reason for that. They have enough gimmicky pay-per-views. All right. Let's see who else we got. And thank you, Robert. Hope you're doing well. Let's get to, let's see. Adam. Adam in the UK. Adam Hayton in the UK. Hi. Logical answer is Braun Strowman or Eric Rowan. Wild answer is The Undertaker in a non-wrestling role as a faction leader. I'm guessing you're asking, or you're responding to me of who the person in the mask could be that Bray Wyatt saw on the screen that we all thought was Bray, but it probably isn't. It could be Braun. Eric Rowan is also a strong possibility, but at the same time, do we want to go backwards here? Do you really want to go backwards to Bray Wyatt being involved with these two in a alliance? I mean, it's not a terrible idea, but I feel like it's retroactive or retrograde. Is that the right word? I don't know. It's almost midnight here, guys. So it's logical, yes. Is it a good choice just because it's logical? I don't know. I'd have to be sold on where they're going after that. So, but The Undertaker, I would say no. I don't want Undertaker in any kind of non-wrestling role or wrestling role. The only time I want Undertaker on my screen is to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, or to, well, he was already this year. Jeez. to maybe like come back for a documentary, or to be out there for like a cameo and hit a choke slam and a tombstone on somebody. That's it. I mean, if Undertaker ever wants to come back and just kind of do a Stone Cold thing where not have a match, of course, but just come out and shut a heel up that's been running his mouth for weeks and just hit a choke slam and a tombstone, people would love that. And that I have no problem with. Okay, this next email is from Levi, and he says, hope all is good today. I wanted to talk about Bray. Me personally, I was kind of disappointed that Bray did not return as The Fiend because he didn't get to finish his story with Randy. Because if you remember, WrestleMania 37, The Fiend lost to Randy. And I also think that The Fiend is really cool. And then we saw The Fiend at Extreme Rules, but it wasn't Bray. I'm glad that WWE acknowledged The Fiend existed, and also so excited that AOC and AJ Styles are opposing Judgment Day. Yeah, so I know what you mean. Like the Fiend was cool, but I also think it was flawed. It was a flawed character from a booking perspective, and had some really bad memories from a booking perspective that I think WWE wants to forget. And he's just, if you're ever going to reinvent or evolve yourself, being away for 19 months certainly provides you that opportunity. You can't come back as the same exact person you left as. Fans like evolution, I think, generally. So, yeah, he didn't really finish the story with Brandy, but I think that WWE would want us to, and I want to, erase that match from my mind. It was one of the worst WrestleMania matches I've ever seen, and I hate saying that because of the talent and respect I have for both of those men, but the story, or rather the booking for that match was just terrible. It made no sense. It was too short. Even the actual physicality itself wasn't good. It was just a disaster from my perspective. All right. Thanks, Levi. Let's get to our final email here, I think. Famous last words. From Jackson from Melbourne, Australia. And he says, just wanted to share what I've seen on social media, more specifically TikTok. I've come across Eva Marie on TikTok, and her bio says WWE Superstar. I'm not too sure if she's actually contracted or not, but she posted a video captioned, "If I make this, I'm going back to WWE." And it was her shooting Alexa's Lily doll into a bin, and as it's about to go in, the video cuts off with Bray Wyatt's upside down butterfly thing with the red ring and the usual audio that comes along with it. I don't know what truth there is to this, but God, I hope it's not true. Yeah, I really don't want Eva Marie on my TV. Like, I have no interest in that. Didn't Shayna Baszler break her arm? Yeah, I don't need that. Maybe it's her just trying to get attention. I've also seen another user on TikTok who's posting updates about what he finds with the potential of the potential Wyatt 6. If it will be a faction, with the most likely people being Alexa Bliss as Sister Abigail, Grayson Waller from NXT as Mercy the Buzzard, Joe Gacy from NXT as Huskus, Bo Dallas as the Rabbit, and Vince from Impact as the Fiend. He also goes on to speculate how it could just be Bray Wyatt's split personalities. He also thinks Eric Rowan and Liv Morgan are tied in somehow. There's so much to think about here. And I've heard theories from the White Rabbit's still out there that the White Rabbit actually wasn't Bray. That actually wasn't Bray Wyatt. And really, and maybe because I'm not thinking too hard right now, was the White Rabbit ever actually identified in Wyatt's return? In other words, okay, we all thought it was pointing to Bray Wyatt's return, and it did, but is the White Rabbit actually Bray Wyatt? I don't know. I could see where the White Rabbit thing, even though Bray's back, continues, and people are like, wait a minute, the White Rabbit isn't Bray? It's possible. There's so many deep and multi-layered ideas to this, and we've only seen, part one of probably 46 into this chapter of Bray Wyatt. So there's a lot to unpack, as they say, and we haven't seen anything yet. If you want to check out what he's had to say for his reasoning, his user ID is Irish Neep. Okay, I'll check it out. Grayson Waller did also post a video about how he was trolling fans about him being in the Wyatt 6, but in his nature to troll, it is in his nature to troll fans about something but then actually do it. Bo Dallas is also reported to be making a return, even though he's not in the Wyatt 6. Yeah, I mean, I've heard everything from Bo Dallas being the one in the mask. That's possible too. Finally, just want your thoughts on if there will be a Wyatt 6 or not, and if you would prefer Wyatt as a standalone in WWE or him as part of a faction. Personally, I think it's better for him to be in a faction so he doesn't have to wrestle as often while making appearances. It can take the storyline further and continuously build anticipation for Wyatt going against Roman for the belt. Cheers. Enjoy your day. Well, thank you. Cheers to you as well, Jackson. Hope all is going well in Australia there. I actually, in this case now, I think WWE's number of factions are really kind of crazy right now, but in this case of Bray Wyatt, I think it is beneficial for him to put together some kind of faction, whether it's called the Wyatt 6 or the Wyatt 12 or the Wyatt 4, whatever. To me, yes. And it kind of was hinted this past week on SmackDown with that mask appearing, and people are assuming, well, it's Bray's split personality, but I think more people involved with him here would be good. And also, Bray's a big enough star now that he could lead a faction and help grow new stars. I mean, factions by design are meant to build new stars more than anything else. And I think that's going to be a good thing. And plus, how many babyface factions are there right now? Not a lot. Not a lot. You have the Brawling Brutes, okay, but you have Imperium. You have the Judgment Day. You have the Bloodline. So there's more heel factions than babyface factions, and this one would certainly help balance that out. And yes, when we eventually get Roman versus Bray, Bray's going to need backup, and he's going to have it. Probably in Bo Dallas, maybe in Eric Rowan. I hope not Alexa Bliss. She needs to stay away and have her own career. But certainly you could bring in people to help Bray and help those new stars build and get the rub from Bray. That to me is it's a win-win. Yes, I don't want Bray actually going this alone, but it's going to be a long story arc, and I'm all for it. So, okay, I think we finally concluded the email portion of the show. I don't think we have too many voicemails, so that'll kind of balance things out on the back end here. But let's actually we're going to take a quick break for the show here and give a little bit of love to today's sponsor, and then we're going to get to the voicemails. So let's do that, and we'll be right back. What's happening out in the wild world of independent wrestling? Weekend at Effie's. It's available on all podcast platforms and has the first-hand accounts of professional wrestler Effie each week as he tries to make sense of his crazy adventures, travel, and plethora of weird wrestling shows shared without interruption to friend and spiritual confidant Peter. Weekend at Effie's is a raw and thought-provoking look into a chaotic world, and with over a year of episodes available, there's plenty to listen to now. Just search Weekend at Effie's wherever you hear podcasts. That's Weekend at Effie's, EFFYS. They also have a TikTok and Twitter at Weekend at Effie's, or Patreon, patreon.com/Weekend at Effie's.
Hello, WWE Podcast World. This is DJ Kuzmo back at it again on your Mailbag show. Recording to you live once again on a Wednesday morning. That's right, folks. We are on a Wednesday morning because of the Veer Mahan report. Veer Mahan, of course, now on NXT. But before we get to the Veer Mahan report and everything that goes with that, I want to give a shout out to my New York Football Giants. That's right, none other than my New York Football Giants. They are now sitting on top. Not on top yet, but they are 5-1. 5-1, right up against the undefeated Philadelphia Eagles. But we're coming for you, Philly fans. We are coming for you because the New York Giants, after the many years of being mediocre, after the many years of being the laughing stock of the New York City sports, I guess you could say universe, the New York Giants are now one of the best football teams in the NFL today, and that is a testament to the coaching staff. None other than Brian Dable. Shout out to my man Brian Dable and the New York Football Giants. What a thrilling victory against the Baltimore Ravens this past Sunday. One of the most incredible victories in Giant Stadium. Yeah, that's right. I'm still calling it Giant Stadium. So shout out to my New York Football Giants as they continue to roll out victories after victories. We are now 5-1, and I can't wait. I can't wait to the day to see them face the Philadelphia Eagles so that we could put a rain on their parade and be the #1 team in the NFC East. But enough about football. Let's get back to professional wrestling. And guys, last night was an amazing night of professional wrestling. We had AEW Dynamite. We had NXT. And why are people still saying a Tuesday night war? There is no Tuesday night war. Like I said last week, enjoy wrestling, man. It's all about the moments. It's all about the matches. It's all about the pops. And just to see both shows happening at the same time at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time was a beautiful, just to flip back and forth doing the commercial breaks for NXT and an AEW Dynamite was awesome. But the war that you guys should be focusing on is the bidding war of 2024. And of course, I'm talking about none other than MJF. Where will he decide to stay? Where will he decide to continue his professional wrestling career? That is left to be seen. But last and certainly not least, I know I'm about to hit that 3-minute mark, but I want to get to the Veer Mahaan Report. And the Veer Mahaan Report, of course, taking place last night on NXT. We got a backstage segment of Veer Mahaan. He gets a chance to talk to Mackenzie Mitchell, and she wants to know, and everybody else wants to know, what did Veer Mahaan say to Sangha last week on NXT? But before we could get a clear-cut answer, Veer Mahaan was interrupted by Sangha, and Sangha said, I'm ready, brother. I'm ready. I am ready. So, as he said that, Veer Mahaan says, I know you would do that. I know you would be ready. So you know what that means? It is the official beginning of the Indus coming together to make some noise in the NXT Tag Team Division. And I can't wait for that. So with that being said, have a blessed week. This is DJ Kuzmo. Peace.
Hey, DJ. Well, I'm glad you brought up the Giants. Now, I'm not a huge football aficionado. I'm not an encyclopedia of football. I don't pretend to know the game in and out. I am a Giants fan, though. I don't need to be super smart at football to like a team. Yeah, I'm a Giants fan. I'm a Yankees-Giants fan, right? So, I mean, that's about the most uninteresting combination ever of a sports fan. But, yeah, the Giants, 5-1, nearly going 6-0. I mean, if it weren't for the Cowboys in their offense that game, I think that we would have probably taken 6-0. But yeah, the Giants 5-1 is crazy, but I have a feeling that the Eagles may give them a bit of a problem. They seem to be for real. They don't seem to be, playing pretend here. They do seem to be a legit team. So that game that they play against the Eagles is going to be tough. And if nothing else, if they don't win the division, maybe they'll win the wild card and be able to get into the playoffs that way. But they've definitely got themselves in a good position. The problem is the rest of the division's actually doing well. Unlike past years, they would have been, running away with the division already. Now they're right in lockstep with them, and they need division wins, right? They need division wins. But, okay, good stuff. The bidding war of 2024, I keep harping on this. I know we're a year and a few months away, but if WWE doesn't grab MJF and pay him whatever he wants, they're missing the boat. I really believe that. Now, will the company survive without him? Of course it will. It'll be doing just fine without him. But I really believe MJF could add just so much intrigue into it. And with Vince gone and Triple H realizing that MJF doesn't need a script and he could just go off the cuff, yeah, hell yes. Bring MJF to WWE. And as far as the Veer Mahaan report, bring him into the tag team scene in NXT. Hell yeah, too, to that. I think Veer Mahaan has more to offer than what Vince showed us with what his character was in the main roster, which was just the cervical clutch. That's it. So, thanks, DJ, and we'll talk to you soon. Let's get to the next one.
What up, WWE Podcast? Rocky T checking in once again. I already left my email, and it's kind of lengthy, so I'm going to make this real short. One question for you, Matt. Just got to listen to the Raw review. What on earth did you say to JBL on Twitter for him to block you? I just wanted to know. I found it very interesting. That's it. Everybody stay Uzi.
Hey, Rocky T. Honestly, this happened. Now, when I say he blocked me, it was on the WWE podcast username that I had that had 45,000 damn followers that Twitter inexplicably decided to just permanently ban me from, and I never got an explanation. But he blocked me on that one a couple of years ago because when that whole news story broke about JBL bullying and all that kind of stuff, I called him out for it too. And I can't remember exactly what I said, but it was just something to the effect that, probably that is not acceptable, or that I maybe retweeted something that he didn't like about the reports coming out about Justin Roberts being bullied by him or something. So that's the best of my knowledge, but it was a few years ago that this happened under my old Twitter name. So thanks, Rocky. Thanks for your email as well. And let's get to our final voicemail.
Hey everybody, this is Robert from the WWE Ringside Podcast. I have a couple questions for you, Matt. I know you were talking about there not being a draft this year, and I haven't really heard much about it either. And that the Fiend might be brand exclusive to SmackDown. What are your thoughts on possibly having just like brand exclusive stars and then like a floating mid-card? Kind of what they're doing now, it seems like. But we could have, other than like Reigns, who has the unified title, and the Usos, but we could have brand exclusive big stars with like a floating mid card to just kind of get their name out there more and make them more relevant. I don't know, instead of doing a draft. What are your thoughts on that? The second thing I wanted to talk about was, do you think we're going to have any title changes before WrestleMania? Looking at who we have right now as the champions, I don't see there being really any title changes before WrestleMania. The only one would be maybe the IC title, but I don't think Gunther will drop it before Mania. So do you think we're going to get any title changes, or are we going to have these champions at WrestleMania this year? And the last thing was with Andrade over in AEW, with his situation of him not being happy, it sounds like. What are your thoughts if he and Charlotte came back together at the same time as some sort of a power duo? I'm not sure what his contract situation is with AEW, but if there's a way he could get out of it or whatever. But what are your thoughts on if they came back as some sort of a power duo? They could go up against maybe Cross and Scarlett, or maybe Alexa Bliss and The Fiend if they team back up together or whatever, something like that. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that? That's all I got for today. Have a good one. Bye.
Robert, great questions. Great questions. Seriously. Three things. Let's go point by point. Brand exclusive stars with a floating mid card. Fox executives have been very adamant that they have Roman Reigns and Bray Wyatt as their exclusive stars. So it's kind of already happening anyway. USA, I guess, from what I understand, has been a little more lenient about who needs to only be there and not on SmackDown. But I like that idea, but they won't hold themselves to it. That sounds great on paper. Even if the network executives want it, I don't think WWE is going to be able to hold themselves to their own standard. They've shown in every draft they've ever done that they can't wait 2 weeks before violating their own rules. You think they're not going to be tempted to bring over a major star to another show, to promote another match or to get a dream match for the next pay-per-view? No way. I just don't trust WWE. That's been the culture. That's been their MO, is just not following their own draft rules. Again, the only way that they would do it is if they're forced by their contract with Fox or USA. That's it. Also, are anyone dropping the titles before Mania? Great question. I'm with you about the championships probably not changing hands. What you see is probably what you're going to get. Maybe the women's tag team championships probably change hands. Also, you probably may have Bianca drop it before Mania. Maybe, although if Charlotte comes, tough. The thing is, as a general rule, and I say this every time we get later in the calendar year, is that you like to have a babyface in chase mode. So anyone that's a babyface champion right now, you need to look at and go, because they are the most likely to drop the belt so that they go into chase mode for WrestleMania to be their destination. Now, that's not a hard and fast rule, and it's probably not even more than like 60-70% that it happens, but it's a safe rule. That it's about as general of a rule as you can get. I just, I don't know. I would imagine the U.S. title is possible, but if Cody comes back, he's going to come after Seth and probably challenge Seth for revenge in part 4 of their program for what Seth did a few months ago. U.S. title's probably safe around Gunther. I hope he keeps the belt until infinity. I think Roman Reigns actually may be the biggest candidate. Maybe. But again, that all depends on Dwayne Johnson. Is he coming back? Is he not? I think that has a big thing to do with the decision there. And also Bray Wyatt. When does he challenge for the belt? Because I think he's the number one guy right now to take the belt off Roman. So lots of ifs. But actually the crazy thing is I think Roman is the top candidate to have the belt being dropped. And the women's tag team championships. But that's always the case. Now Andrade and Charlotte coming back together. Again, I don't know what Andrade's contract status is as well. I don't know, but if WWE can buy him out, or perhaps if he's close to his contract ending, bringing him back would certainly make Charlotte happy. Charlotte is an asset to WWE, regardless of what fans think about her, or she's always champion or whatever. Charlotte and Andrade would be a power couple that absolutely could go against Scarlett and Karrion Kross, as you said, would be a great matchup. As long as you try to turn them babyface, Charlotte and Andrade would probably be the baby faces in that situation. So yeah, I'd love it. Bring it on. Absolutely. So thank you, buddy. Thank you, Robert. Thank you to everybody. Thanks to all the callers, the emails, everything else. You guys make this show what it is. I appreciate it. I'll be back on maybe a live show. Maybe I'll do a live show this week. We'll see. That didn't go so well last time, but maybe I'll, second time's a charm. But nonetheless, I really do appreciate it. I want to thank everybody for making this a great show. Thank you to the listeners. Give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts if you have a moment, or consider going ad-free and getting rid of all the ads that we have in this show for $1 a month over at patreon.com/WWE podcast or on Apple Podcasts for 99 cents a month. So thank you everybody for listening. As always, take care. I'll talk to you next time.